been on with Felipe, so.
Oh, so you're good. If you've had to deal with Felipe. Actually, I got to listen to your interview, or the interview Felipe had with you, which was super awesome. And I've since stolen, borrowed, repurposed one of the ideas that you said so concisely. So, folks, what's going on? We are here with Miss Katie Anderson, and I just dropped like a teaser, right? Like, cut the conversation in the middle and start doing this. Miss Katie Anderson is here. Y'all out there in the Omniverse, let us know where you're tuning in from. Show some love and bring your questions, because Katie's like totally ready for some questions. Oh, look at this.
Oh, we got Mr. Sam and Dr. M. Hey, guys.
Oh, Dr. M. So you were on his podcast recently, huh?
Yes, I've been on twice now, and we're teeing up something new in the new year. So that'll be great.
Yeah. Ooh, can you give like just a little extra teaser about what's
coming?
Well,
no, I mean, it's in the works. So
it's like Christmas Eve. I just want to open the gift. So awesome. Dr. M's amazing. He's been super supportive all along the way. So folks, thank y'all for joining. We were what were we talking about before I jumped all over the place? Well, it wasn't a we thing.
Hey,
it was me.
Jesse and I were talking about that we actually haven't talked face to face, or live like this before. So we're getting to know each other a little bit better. And what better way to get to know each other than sharing that with you all too, and taking your questions. So Jesse, this is you have a, this is a bit of a surprise format for me too. So tell us our journey here today.
Yes, you got it. So folks, if you're first timers, this is the OG Spotlight. And the intent of the Spotlight is to celebrate people that are putting effort into leaving the world better than they found it. Oh. Katie, you're absolutely one of those people. I had the fortune of experiencing your energy and your care in Houston.
Oh, yeah, that was the LEI conference in Houston. Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, 2019, before the before
right
days.
Before. Yes, right before. And I was in one of your breakout sessions, or
I did a workshop there.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. That's the connection.
Yes.
Yay. All right. Cool. So
I have what we're gonna do, of course, is we're gonna celebrate you, right? Like, that's what we're here for. My people that be watching this, like, they can get connected with you. We're on the Twitter, the YouTube, the Facebook, and the LinkedIn, and help spread like your story. So I promised in the chat that I had a surprise.
Yes.
So I did get to meet you in Houston.
Yes.
And I got me one of these little goodies.
Yay, you got it. One of my Darumas. I'm almost out of my supply that I got brought back in 2020. So hooray.
Yes, I've got it.
The dots are connecting, because I feel we've always love your Daruma. All right. So will you share your goal?
I will. I will share my goal, and then I'm going to ask you to explain the whole idea behind it.
Well, you can see my extensive Daruma collection behind me here. So yes, I will tell more as well.
So the goal, and I made this goal back in 2019.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to run a marathon in under 3.5 hours.
Wow. How are you going with that goal?
At that time, I was training for the marathon. And I was traveling a whole bunch for work here in the central United States. So I ended up quitting on the training. Like, there was just no way I was going to get the training in. So I picked that back up, right? Because that's kind of one of the stories behind the
fall down.
Fall down 7, get up 8. Yeah. And this year, when I launched my business, I said, I need a long-term goal, because I don't know what I'm doing in terms of launching my business. So I needed something firm to hold on to. So I set a goal to, again, the 3.5 hours on the marathon. It's taking place next Sunday. And unfortunately, I will not be coloring in the other eye next Sunday. But I still have more times to get up.
Yeah, well, exactly. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. It's okay. We know we'll have setbacks, but it doesn't mean we should give up. We just have to figure out the next way forward.
Yes, yes. And so can you tell folks like the story, the meaning behind these
Sure,
dolls?
I'm gonna go grab my my big one here. That's my special Daruma. This giant baby I had made for me, especially at the Daruma temple in Japan, called in the town called Takasaki. Oh, it's bigger than my head. Here.
There
So
you go.
this one here, well, you can't even see me. This one here is, well, they even come even bigger than this. So these are Daruma dolls. They're paper mache, they're hollow, and then they're weighted at the bottom. And they are intended when you have a goal, you fill in the Daruma as like you create a pupil. And this one actually has a special little energy that the monks in the temple added some extra energy here, but I haven't chosen, this is such my special one. I haven't like chosen a goal for it yet, but they're weighted, and this one's hard because it's so big, but it will always, like a weeble wobble, right itself back up, and representing the Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And then when you finally achieve your goal, you get to fill in the doll's second eye. And it's like it connects to my time living in Japan, the Japan study trips that I lead, the concepts of like in lean and continuous improvement, striving for a challenge and a big goal, and knowing that we have to learn through struggle and failure and mistakes and continue to get back up. And it's a visual representation of your goal and a reminder to persevere and stay patient. And then this one's special because I had my favorite word, intention, written on this, and this is how it looks in Japanese, and it's pronounced shiko. And these symbols, this one's samurai, and this one is heart, and this one is direction. So there's two symbols, and these are the subcomponents. But I really now see intention being about what's our heart, what's our purpose, who do we want to be, and then what are the actions we need to take to align with that and create the impact we want. And then I had some special things written on the side, and I can't actually remember what they are, but they're things about like keep on and keep going. I actually have to ask my my business partner in Japan about that. But there you go. Those Japanese Daruma dolls, and this one's super special.
Yes. Well, this one is super special
Okay.
also. I've
Yeah.
held on to it 3 years, and we'll see when I can color in the other eye. It's gonna happen, whether I like it or not, it's happening.
Yeah. You make it happen, and even if the outcome is not what you anticipated, it's okay. You can still, your achievement can be something that you define differently as well.
Yes, yes. So we got some people coming in. We got Mr.
Yeah.
Brian Little saying hello from Columbus. Oh, ooh, I bet it's cold over there right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this guy back up.
Okay. And then we got Sam Morgan. Look, Sam gives a thumbs up to Felipe. We approved. Felipe is Sam Morgan approved.
Yes.
Got my buddy George Sanchez coming in from Facebook land. I've known George since like 6th grade. Super awesome friend. And then Jake Harrell.
Jake,
You know Jake.
Jake.
Okay, good.
Yes, Jake and I have talked many times.
Jake is so awesome. He's one of my favorite. Jake, I'm gonna be in Dallas before Christmas, so I will give you the privilege of providing me with the gift, Jake.
Oh.
See how nice I am, Katie? Yeah. So one of the big, maybe monumental nails that you put in my head was when I was listening to your interview with Felipe on the EBFC show. I think I got it right because I usually say it wrong. And this is the way I kind of twisted it up, but leadership, right? Mm-hmm. Leaders challenge, leaders nurture, and leaders expand their own capabilities. Mm. How far off am I?
No, those are encompassed completely in the essence of leadership. And then the threefold sort of purpose or roles of a leader that I talk about in the framework of like how we lead to learn is leaders set the direction by providing a challenge or a target, like where do we need to go, and helping stretch people to get there, and then providing that support. So that's really that nurturing, the development, helping people, not taking over the problem solving, but really making sure people have the capability, the confidence, the clarity, and the creativity to get there. And then developing themselves as well. So that's like how do we create those conditions for us to improve as well and to get better at leading with caring and with curiosity and courage to do all of that. And there's a word too that you and I have talked about too, this like concept of connection and how do we connect together. And it's really this interaction on the human level, coming from that love and that caring and that kindness that really helps us amplify our own impact.
Yes. Yeah. So much there. But before I go there, we got a question from George in
Yeah, it's a great
Facebook.
question.
He says, right on. Is there a difference between leadership and mentorship? What are your thoughts?
I see mentorship being, well, it can be a leader can show up as a mentor, or you could have a mentor who's separate from a leader. So see leader as someone guiding someone in a direction. So, you're sort of helping pull people up, and it could be a leader with a formal title and some management role, or a leader with influence. I see a mentor as someone really sharing their experiences as a way in providing that support and that sort of that cheerleading element too. But I see mentorship is really, I'm sharing my past experiences. I've been there before you. And so we can embody these different elements of mentorship, coaching, leadership when we are in a more manager type of role, or just separately and truly I'm just showing up as a mentor for you to help guide you and share with you my experiences along the way. So that's sort of how I see the difference, the nuance there. And of course, there's we blend and we move fluidly a bit between roles too. So that's,
Yes.
So that's, it's like, it's not a clear cut delineated, definition.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, we can all just demonstrate leadership regardless of what our capacity is. But in my head, the way this, I reconcile it is like, I'm thinking of leaders in a formal setting, like in a work venue, and it's like the people with responsibility and influence. And now that kind of, like you said, we can kind of go back and forth, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of some of the language you used in the book, Leading to Learn and Learning to Lead, about the weaving.
Yes.
Ooh, watch out.
Yeah. Book plug, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn.
Yes. So I met you in Houston at the conference, at the LEI conference. You were consulting then. And then this is kind of, so check me if I'm wrong. Then the book came out.
Correct. I was in the thick of writing this book when I met you in Houston, and going through the sort of, I don't know if it's called a crisis, but everyone told me you'd end up writing a book twice. And it's so true. I wrote much of the book first, and I was like, God, this is just not, or like wasn't hanging together. And it's when I made the pivot a little bit later in that autumn. So probably, I don't know, maybe it was October, November. And I think I was on my way to OSU to do some coaching for the MBOE program. I had this epiphany of that I needed to, this weaving metaphor of the warp and the weft, and that I needed to release from trying to put everything neatly into sort of a chapter with a specific topic, and just tell Mr. Yoshino's learning journey and let the learning come from that. And when I released from that and actually wrote it more as a linear learning journey, it allowed me to tell the story and not try and cut it all up, because I had different pieces everywhere. I'm like, this is not working. So I was in the middle of like the part of writing when I saw you. I mean, of course, I didn't put that forward, but that was the hard work of really figuring out what the structure of the book was, so that I could allow the story and allow the learning to come forward.
Yes, and the book, what's the word, illustrates the path or the relationship or this ongoing conversation you had with Mr. Yoshino. And so, like, for me, it's like, that's amazing. There's a lot of really super important stuff in there. And I'm just gonna, everybody should know, but in case you don't, when I say read, I mean listen, because I consume information best that way than like the hand way. I fall asleep when I do this. Is that weird?
No, everyone's different.
Good. So
that's why I made the audiobook, because everyone consumes information in different ways.
Exactly.
You've heard me, 8 hours of me reading. It's great, unless you put me on speed.
It was like my own private serenade. That's what it was. Thank you for that. So I'm listening to the story and the takeaways, and get to hear Mr. Yoshino come in, which is like super cool. And it almost in my brain, I'm like, who, like, did you say, hey, let's talk because I want to write a book? Or in terms of the timing of the relationship with
Hmm.
Mr. Yoshino as it relates to a shift in your thinking? Can you tell us
Ooh.
something about that?
I'm curious. Were you like, when did we start talking, or when did it? Like, can you clarify your question?
So, in terms of your personal journey, right?
Mm.
Young lady, I don't know. So, high level Jesse sequence, middle school, high school, college, Mr. Yoshino, consulting, book.
Oh,
Like that's
well,
what I'm
actually, I'd
saying.
flip it around because I'm a lot older than maybe you think I am, but that's there are a lot more years between college and meeting Mr. Yoshino, like 20.
Okay.
Maybe not quite that many, but close to it. So the shift for me in my thinking and mindset actually happened before I met Mr. Yoshino. It was so a little background. I had a first career out of college, thinking I was going to. I'm an academic at heart, a deep learner. I thought I was going to get my PhD and teach and do research, and actually all of those skills that I gained from the first 7-8 years of my career and my master's degree in doing qualitative research served me for doing a book based on interviews and synthesis, although written in a very different style than academic research. It was when I had a Fulbright scholarship and was living in Australia for 4 years to do my master's degree. I realized during that time, there were two big shifts that happened for me. One, at that time, academia or the type of research I was doing was so retrospective, and it felt
Mm.
really disconnected to tangible like impact. I mean, I know it was having an impact, but I'm a people person, and I realized I needed to be doing something more, like working directly with people. So I shifted to healthcare consulting. And then when I moved back to the United States in my early 30s, I started working at Stanford Children's Hospital, and that's where I got exposed to lean thinking and practice. And so that was the first part of my shift in my learning journey, was realizing I needed to change from being the expert who was coming up with all the answers and the problem solving and I'm the smart consultant who's been assigned a problem, and I go into a place, and of course I'm working with the people and helping them, but really I'm kind of behind the scenes doing it all. And then shifting over the period of sort of 6 to 8 years as I grew in my own learning about lean and leadership and coaching and seniority in the organization, and then taking a more senior role at a different healthcare organization, was that I really need to what I call now break the telling habit and really
Mm.
learn how to navigate these continuums between telling and asking, being an expert and a coach, setting a challenge and providing support, and also working on business problems, but also developing people at the same time. So that shift happened, and I started my consulting practice then. It was 9 years ago, to really be able to create impact in more broadly different organizations, different industries. And it was a year later that we moved to Japan for my husband's job, actually. And
Ah.
I met Mr. Yoshino there when we were living in Japan, and he and I just hit it off and had because we have some core print values in our who we
Mhm.
are, about being international people, loving learning and loving helping people learn. And I started blogging about our conversations. And it was a few years later, when I moved back to the US, we started collaborating. And he's actually, this used to be my guest room, and he's stayed in this room a few times
Oh, so
before the
cool.
pandemic. Then it became my office. Actually, there's still a bed right here next to me.
Nice.
Uh, but so going back to your question, my shift in my thinking happened before I met Mr. Yoshino. But
Ah.
what the conversations with Mr. Yoshino, who's a 40-year retired Toyota leader who lived in the US for 14 years of his career, so he really understands both cultures, it deepened my understanding of the things that I'd already started to have some aha moments about, and really gave me the richness of the history of
Mm.
how all of the tools and the mindset and the processes developed. And it really confirmed for me the path of leadership that I had in coaching that I had started to become on. And it just ingrained that as the way for me. So it wasn't like a shift for me, but it was an enrichment and a deepening and a confirmation about about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to help other people achieve goals for their organizations, transform cultures, and starting that with individuals. And so, yeah, that was that. And of course, then his side comment was, "Oh, let's put together your blog post and make like a booklet." And I'm like, I think there's more than a booklet there, but yeah, that was the genesis of the idea of, yeah, let's do a project together. And then 2.5 years later, it was this. So yeah.
Boom. So now it's a book, not a booklet, a book and a workbook.
Yeah, the
And
workbook here. Yeah. Yep, the nice workbook too. This is more of a booklet, right? This is, I mean, this is what you're thinking with a booklet, not 80,000 words of a book, but 8 hours.
That is,
but there's too much. There was so much as we started doing purposeful interviews. Like he and I've been talking for years, but the purposeful interviews, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much history here about Toyota, that oral history that has not been captured, at least in the English language. Some behind the scenes stories about things, and then also just his own personal journey. But it became clear that this needed to be captured and brought forward to other people to learn as well.
Agreed. It's fabulous. So as I was listening to the book, there was a part where it's like, yes. And why have I not only heard that said by other people twice? So
what was that?
You were talking about A3s,
mm-hmm.
and you were talking about the social technical aspect of A3s. And I've only heard one other person. Oh, look at that. Who do we got here?
Mr.
Steve Martin.
Well, I'd love to hear more. I know there's another book in me, and it will be more about the Katie way, but I don't know what. Yeah, that has to crystallize. So I'd love your feedback of the things that resonate with you and you'd love to hear more about. So
absolutely.
Thank you again. Help me on the journey.
Yeah, Steve is the awesomest. He was at Wiremold back when that big old fancy thing came out. And so Hal Maycomber is the first person I heard, not saying that it originated, it's just where I heard it first about just work in general is a socio-technical endeavor. And, in A3s, like, don't tell anybody, Katie, but they're like my favorite thing to work with people on and through. And I'm like an extreme novice at it. But for me, there was a significant shift in thinking in terms of when I first got handed an A3, as I think a lot of us here do. I've sat down and I filled it out, just like the book, right? Yeah. Managing a learn, right? Just, okay, done. And that was actually accepted as the way you do an A3. Anyways, I got to work with David Verbal and Elliot and some other people. And David Verbal and Bryant Sanders, they both like twisted my brain up.
Yeah.
Like, like, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong all this time. And that's kind of when I realized, and I'm headed to a question, like the enormous value of understanding the power in the tool to to foster change management, right? To actually to socialize the change that is in process, not fill out a damn form.
Right.
So to the question, what cheat code idea would you recommend to continuous improvement people that are stuck in the thinking that says, I need to fill it out, I have all the right answers, and here's my proposal to make some investments and change things?
Yeah, so great. Before I answer that question, I just want to highlight too, Mr. Yoshino was John Shook's boss at Toyota. And so the book Managing to Learn, if you actually go to the preface, John recognizes Mr. Yoshino as the person he learned A3 thinking from. And Mr. Yoshino actually was one of the two managers that was the model for the manager character Sanderson in A3 in Managing to Learn. So he just hadn't been able to tell his story. Okay, so my advice for people who are sort of seeing an A3 more of is like, I have this template I need to fill out, and I have all these great ideas. So awesome, capture your ideas, because we often, we have expertise. I almost take a step back with people now and say, before you even go to an A3, let's do a few things. Like, you're still doing the A3 thinking, but you're taking a step back, saying, what's the real problem I'm trying to solve? And how can you frame that as the gap between what should be happening and what's actually happening? So have you defined a real process gap, and have a target and understand the current condition? And if you haven't done that, great, capture all your ideas, but don't go any further. And then start saying, okay, well, what are some of the causes to that? And then all of my ideas, if I were to take one of these ideas, what impact would it have in solving the problem, or what would improve if I put this into place? Because we're not, I mean, it's great, we all have this, our natural instinct is to leap to solutions, but when we tend to backfill and we're like, oh, I have this idea, so here's the problem, or even framing our problem as a solution, just say, if one of these was an idea, what would improve? And this can help shift our mind to think about, well, what's the real problem I'm trying to solve? So like, if we're like, oh, we need to hire more people, well, what would hiring more people help improve? And so it can help shift our mindset a little bit, because we all have great ideas, but they may not be solving the right problem. And so I think that that's the recognition we have to have, and to sort of like acknowledge our ideas, document them. We don't want to forget them, but like really get back to like, what are we really trying to improve? And how does this relate to, a bigger picture of, of like our priorities, as well. So that would be my recommendation. Like, if you get in the trap of seeing an A3 as a template, like don't even try and put it into a template. Just start with blank paper or a whiteboard and go through the thinking process.
Yes. And like, thank you for that, because yes. And also, and maybe it's just me because I'm a plumber. But it's not even as easy as you just made it sound. Like, even that is difficult. But it takes work. And I guess the main point, kind of like Jennifer's saying here, is love to focus on socializing change management instead of a checkbox.
Yes.
Because it's just like super easy to do the checkboxy type stuff. Jennifer also says, changing the conversation and mindset around the problem. If one of these is an idea, what would improve?
That is such a helpful phrase. And it's like, if you can keep that in mind, you will see how often our problem statements are actually solutions disguised as a problem statement. Like, we need to do X, Y, and Z. We don't have a process. We're lacking something, or we need to implement. And all of those are really like, those are solutions to what problem? And so it's a real mindset shift. And we're not even aware of our habits around that. And I fall into that trap too, but I have at least those like triggers to be, wait a second, like, that's actually not a problem. That's an idea, which is great. Let's acknowledge our great ideas.
Yes.
But let's go back first and see what problem we're really trying to solve.
Yes. Put it over there on the right side, because you may be able to use it on the right side, but we're not there yet. Come back to the left side.
Yeah. Take those notes, acknowledge it.
Solutionizing. It is our nature to solutionize.
Totally. And one of the things we have the plan, do, check, act, PDCA cycle. And I've actually really shifted to using the study, adjust, because of you mentioned like check the box. We tend to see checking as like this, like, oh, I did it, but we do it at a really surface level, versus really studying, like, did what we expect to happen actually happen? If not, why not? Then what do we need to adjust? We miss out on, we blow through and just like, oh, check the box. I like, well, did we get the outcome or not? But we're not really spending that time, because in our busy world, we all fall into the trap of the reflection. We'll just do, because doing feels rewarding.
Feels good.
But it feels good. But the learning happens in the study and the adjust. And, as I started the book off, the only secret to Toyota is its attitude towards learning. Mm-hmm. And they put intentional focus on that. So we can get better if we slow down a little bit and do a little more study, adjust as well. I mean, we got to plan and do as well. So you can't just stay in this like cerebral studying phase. You need all components, but we just get do. So, yeah.
Yes. And we have confirmation bias. So do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So the in coaching or in the service or the value that you provide to your clientele, I imagine that it has profoundly impacted some leaders' thinking or
Mm,
understanding of what they believe their role to be.
mm.
Um, what are some world shaking stories or examples that you've had with some of your clientele?
The world shaking stories, and this is across the board, they're not so world shaking, but they're profound in their impact because it's these subtle shifts that we make that dramatically like increase our impact, increase the change the whole dynamic. So my friend and a client that I've been long-term client at a big multinational, Sean, he says it's like I have this superpower now. He's like, it's so simple. Like he's like, it's so simple, but like it actually is hard to do. He's like, I tell people the challenge or the direction we need to go, and then I go to Gemba and I ask a lot of open-ended questions as you've coached me to do. And then I come back and say, what support do you need? And if they need a little teaching, I do that. But like, I'm clear on where we need to go and I give them the space to do some thinking. And he was in a CI role. He still does, but also in an operations management directorship role. And he said other people around the organization were starting to talk to the site leader saying, what's going on in Sean's area? Like everyone's super engaged and they're solving all these problems. And he's like, it's Katie, it's so simple, but like, and so we're working with them to continue to build that out in the organization. But the profound change, and I mean, this is the story across the board. It's simple. It's just not easy. And we have to be willing to look within ourselves to see the things that are holding us back and recognize that the things that had rewarded us earlier are not serving us necessarily in a people development role. And how can we just show up with a little more curiosity and get better at navigating what I call those continuums of leadership? It's not that telling's wrong and that we don't have a space for our own expertise in solving problems. We do, but it's knowing when are they our problems to solve and when are we there to really help support and develop and cultivate and nurture, as you said, that expertise of other people too. And then because the unintended consequences, we end up owning the burden of all the problem solving. Then we feel like we don't have time to ask questions and it just becomes this vicious cycle. So my recommendation, the profound change that I'm helping spread globally is set the direction, be clear on where we need to go and ask more and better open-ended questions and recognize that there's some struggle in that as well.
Oh my God. Thank that amazing answer. People are like chatting it up right now. One for me, and I'm hoping that the omniverse out there, this is hopefully twisting some brains as well, because I know in like the lean construction space, a lot of us, because I was there, see lean as optimizing output. And that's it.
Well, and we need to be working towards a goal. Like Toyota cares about their outcomes. They just care equally or more about how we get to the outcomes and engaging people and getting there.
Yes. And so that's the thing that comes across. And when you and I first met in Houston and in the book, the audiobook, because I listened to the audiobook, is it's a people development system, like developing me as the leader whenever I get that chance. And when I am the leader, provides me with the thinking set to develop the capabilities of the people that I'm responsible to.
Absolutely. And this is what, I've been talking more and more about this chain of learning. This is how we're all linked together. And we actually want to create a mesh of learning, like a linked chain. So it's not just the vertical from a boss to a direct report, but we grow and learn too through the connection here. And this is our intention. It's like, how do we develop and grow together, but all like strengthening the capabilities across the whole organization will allow us to be able to achieve greater impact, achieve more as well. And so, I talked about those 7 C's of when we lead with curiosity, caring, and courage. then through that connection together, we help develop that capability and confidence, the clarity of what problems we need to solve, and also the creativity of how might we, because we don't want to, it's not all about like, oh, just, coming down to the root cause and all this. Like, we need to foster that creativity and the energy and the, like, that's where the engagement comes in and the ability to happen, to solve even like little problems together. So that chain of learning, we're all now part of it together. And how do we continue to grow and build that with the people that we interact with each and every day?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. So we got some comments I'm going to bring up.
Yeah, great.
Steve Martin, it just came up with a whole new thing. It went from PDCA to spin, sketch, play, inquire, nurture.
Great.
I just like the play part. Like that's it. My buddy, Mr. Tats, up in Canada says showing up with curiosity. Like, is that not all of a sudden, maybe you can relate with this. When I started exploring my curiosity and being a little more courageous about asking questions, all of a sudden more people were like ready to talk to me.
Well, exactly. That's like you said, your superpower, right? Like when we can ask more questions and invite other people in and to have some thinking, people want to engage with you more. It fosters this better energy. I mean, we all have that experience, right? When like you tell, I mean, think about a friend and you're like, oh, I have this issue. And they're like, oh, here's all the things you should do. Have you done this? Have you done that? And like, you're like, no, don't. Same thing happens at work. And the thing is, we're actually trying to be helpful. And I think this is really important to remember too, that often our desire to jump in and like offer all our ideas and solution is not because we're intentionally trying to take over the responsibility of the problem solving. It's because we're genuinely trying to help. And if we might like get good at asking one question, but then someone doesn't have the answer right away. Well, then we start giving all our answers. We need to give a little space for that uncertainty, for that struggle. And we want to save people from the struggle. And so we have to get a little more comfortable with some struggle. So that's I've recognized that in myself too, that like learning inherently has some struggle in it. And so we have to allow that. We don't want people to drown and like be like flailing. And so that's, we have to read the situation.
Yeah. As you were describing the friends, it's like, oh, have you tried this? You should read this. You should check out this podcast. It's like solution shanks, right? Like
you're like, you do not want to. Yeah. There's some people, you can't say something to unless you're just ready to receive all of their
genius and wisdom. I'm still that way sometimes. I try to keep my mouth shut.
And there's a time for brainstorming and working together, but like check in with people first.
Yes. So Carol says it's important to remember that your energy and attitudes enter a room before you do. And I think that ties directly to what we've just been talking about, right? If we leave an impression on the way I don't know, I think of it more as honoring their struggle. Like if they have somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm honored, right? Like you trust me, and I'm not going to barf my answers on you without getting your permission first, right? Like, may I, like, what do you want to vent? If we're venting, cool, I'm going to listen. May I offer a thought instead of you should? It just kind of feels different.
Yes.
And so Brian's like,
oh, great.
That's not fair. Like you're hanging out with Brian.
I think it's in 2 weeks, actually, Brian. But yes, it'll be great. We have a 3-hour learning session together. So we'll be practicing some of what I've been talking here. So great. I look forward to seeing you there.
Very cool.
You'll be getting your own copy of Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. So fantastic.
All kinds of goodies. So people can find you. Let's see. I've got here we go.
My website's right here. Yeah. KBJ Anderson. Those are my initials. KatieBryanJonesAnderson.com. It's my handle on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. And so you can find me and connect with me. Of course, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn is available audiobook, ebook, and paperback, and the companion workbook too. You can go to Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn, or just go to your favorite retailer and get a copy if you haven't already. And great, I'm glad you're reading it. Brian. Yeah.
Brian's like, yeah, I got it. I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Boom.
And also my Brian spelled the same way. So
is it?
Oh, that's BRYN. Cool. That was my maiden name was hyphenated. Brian Jones. Yeah. So that's the BJ part. Yes.
Okay, so what awesome sauce did we
Oh,
not serve up for the
oh my
Omniverse?
gosh, the awesome sauce. I mean, we covered Darumas, we covered intention, we covered the 7 C's, the chain of learning, and we even talked about bit like break the telling habit. So, how do you how do you hold back with some curiosity a little bit longer? I don't know. Gosh, you like that. That's like the essence of my. I think. Okay, so I know the other bit is that it's around how do we also foster joy and how do we focus on the good and how do we use that to both bring ourselves up, but also help others go through hard times too. So I'm approaching the 6-year anniversary of my dad's death. He was one of the most inspiring people to me. He was disabled from a motorcycle accident a month before he graduated from college. So my whole life, I had a physically disabled dad, and he still did so much. And at the end of his life, he had ALS, and his motto was today's a great day. So yeah, there's some pretty terrible days and terrible things happening and you have to acknowledge that, but how can you find the good in the day and the good in the moment or the good in the people and use that as a way to shift your perspective and guide you through that process. So my parting words of wisdom is that today is a great day and I'm really happy to have been here with you, Jesse, to start my day, and it's going to set me off for an amazing day. So today really is a great day. And thank you.
Yes, likewise. It is a great day. And folks out there, y'all be cool. And we'll talk
Yeah.
at you next time.
Yeah. Woo.
Peace. Yeah.